How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Oh, look at that poster behind you.
I'm just gonna. It was already there. I'm not trying to curry favor. I swear.
But that's so cool.
Yeah, it's. Oh my God, I love your collar.
Oh, thanks. It's a party up here.
It is, isn't
Oh
it? I'm so glad to talk to you. This is really exciting for me.
my God, it's absolutely my pleasure.
I want to, before we get into the teacher, I want to ask how, and it probably feels like everyone's might have asked you this. How was 2020 and pandemic and quarantine and all of that on you? How did you handle that? And was it maybe even a good thing?
I think that now that it feels like people are slowly getting back to life after the pandemic, I think that it's easier to look back on things for a lot of people as like, well, what were the positives of it, right? So, for my family, the positives of it were that we had a baby, we had a 7-month-old child who, we were really able to spend so much time together with, my stepson and my husband, and like really just cocooned as a family. Whereas normally our lifestyle as actors, our kid, usually with two parents who are actors, spends a lot of time with one parent and then a lot of time with the other parent, depending on who's working. And I like to look back on that as a really, really amazing bonding time for us, especially with a kid that age. It's just really precious. And so, yeah, I like to look back on it like that. Now it really does feel like things are picking up in our industry, especially because it's safe. It feels safer to be shooting. I'm right now shooting a movie, and my husband's shooting a miniseries, and it feels like we finally know like what sort of the next few months or even more look like in terms of work, whereas the last year has been very, for everybody, just very odd and unsettling.
That's good to hear, though. That bonding, I think, for you at that time sounds like exactly what was needed. That's wonderful.
Yeah, yeah.
Getting into the teacher, one of the things that I think it really exceeded at was understanding how complicated consent is. And how did you view this story from script form to playing the titular role?
Well, I think I was really lucky because I was so involved in it so early on. I was just talking to Hannah, the creator of the show, about this because I was like, maybe I've sort of added years onto this. Maybe it wasn't that long ago that we started talking about this show, but it was as long as I think it was. 6 years ago, she called me and said, "Do you want to be a part of this? Do you want to star in it and produce it with me?" And I said yes right away. And it took us a long time, um, because I guess that's just what happens. It takes a while to get something made, and then um, but it was such a special experience because of that, because of how long it took, that by the time we were on set, I was very involved creatively with all of those scripts. And like, it's the first time that I have had the opportunity to, go to the writer's room a few different times to really like see what the journeys of these characters would be. So for me, there were no surprises. I always knew what was going to happen. Um, and was very involved in discussing that, especially with my character. So bringing her to life, it felt like we had really done the homework and really prepared for it when we finally got there.
Tell me a little bit about working with Nick Robinson, who plays the high school student Eric, and how you established what the power dynamic was going to be, both kind of off screen and on screen.
Well, it was, well, yeah, interestingly, because off screen, the power dynamic is we have equal power because we are co-stars and we are on the same team, and we need to really trust each other and feel really comfortable with each other. And we have to create this thing together. So and then as soon as you get, obviously, in front of the camera, it was a very specific power dynamic that grows and changes throughout the season. So the complicated part of it is that, Claire, even though she's the teacher and has the power, in her mind, she's telling herself that this student has the power. He's coming on to her. He's the one who's the aggressor. All of these things that she's saying or thinking. So that's complicated because from an outsider's point of view, she has the power. She's the one manipulating her power. And, Eric, being the student, is obviously has the student and child really has less power. And then as we move on, and as he grows up and a lot of time passes, by the time we get to the last episode, the reason why I really love the last scene so much is because the power shift, it shifts so intensely that you finally get to see him holding all of the cards and really in the driver's seat. He's telling her how she has changed his life and affected it, and not in a good way. And he's really able to, confront his abuser, which a lot of people don't get the opportunity to do. And then he leaves with the power again, which I found very, dare I say, powerful.
Yeah, I think the ending was talked about quite a bit and stirred a lot of feeling. So, I mean, I was going to ask how you felt about how the series ends, but that you just kind of explained a bit. But does it feel final to you? I don't know if there is another journey here. Do you think maybe there is?
Well, I know for a fact that there isn't, because we don't have any sort of, there's never been a discussion about a season two. But no, I think it was always very clear. The plan was always very clear. And I just really liked that Claire finally she was kind of put in her place a lot. I guess you could look at it in that way, but she's still it's so sad to me that at that point in time, when she's like sitting across from him, she's still sort of telling herself these lies, and so sort of like naive to the fact that it was her responsibility. So I loved the fact that the power shifted, and that it was sort of, and she was sort of left there alone. Tragic, but I thought it was a good decision, I thought.
For me, there was that galvanizing moment is the conversation that Claire has with Catherine in that parking lot, where she reveals who this affair is with. And there's sort of like behind her eyes, like a teenage girl, high school infatuation about it. And she gets hit with this sort of brick wall of what in the world are you doing? But it still kind of never really
Connects.
connects. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah, I think that is, well, it's hard to explain. Again, it's like someone's psychology. It's an interesting sort of study into somebody's psyche, right? And I do think that eventually you do learn about some of her backstory, and when you meet her dad and all of those things, I think that gives us a little bit more of an insight into why she maybe emotionally is the way she is, or makes certain choices. But yeah, I think at that point, again, she's so much living in this fantasy world and telling herself again that, like, well, there's all these excuses that she's using to make what she's done okay. And so I love the fact that this sort of like wild teacher that she thinks is going to be like really cool with it is like, absolutely not. Um, I thought that was such a great moment.
there's with a character like this, as an actor and definitely as a producer, where is your how do you establish what your personal responsibility is for portraying somebody like this? Because you do it the wrong way and the tone could be really, really off.
Well, I felt like I always knew that I was in good hands because I knew who was making the show. I knew exactly what her intent was. You know, Hannah Fidel, she always had a very clear vision of what this was and what the point of this was. Um and she did so much work and so much homework, um responsibly, talking to therapists of both survivors and you know and also talking with lawyers of predators and survivors and all of these. She did so much work to make sure that she was being responsible in the story that she was telling. I knew I wasn't afraid of that. I trusted her and the story that she wanted to tell. So I felt like I was in good hands there and that I could just focus on the character and making her feel as authentic and real as possible.
Yeah. One of the things that's most intriguing to me about you as an actor is that you don't pick the same roles. You really kind of spread out into different things. What type of character or role do you want to play next that you haven't?
Um, there's so many. I started thinking about, I don't know why. I think I maybe I saw something or was watching a documentary or something, but I would love to have to do something where I have to physically learn something new, like whether it's playing an athlete or to learn something where I'm really having to use my body physically. I love having to like really prepare for a role. I feel like it's one of the things as an actor that we're so lucky that we get to learn from, like, the best teachers and the best, the people who are at the top of their game, whatever that might be, depending on who you're playing. And so I love like the training aspect of being an actor. I really love. And so I would love to. I don't even know what that role is, but I would love to have to do that with, physically be exhausted in learning whatever that new thing would be.
Earlier you mentioned your husband, and for those that don't know, it's the amazing and equally talented Jamie Bell, whom you met on Fantastic Four. Have you talked about working together again?
Well, we actually met way before Fantastic Four. It was like we were always sort of meant to work together because we had done a screen test together. Um, I don't know how many years ago, forever ago, 15 years ago or something. And then we did another screen test together. Again, didn't get either of those jobs. And then Fantastic Four, we didn't even really have real scenes together. So it feels like we haven't worked together really. And yes, I think that, well, I know I can speak for myself. You'd have to ask him, but he's one of my favorite actors. So I would love to work with him. I think that it's definitely complicated when you get, I think there's like a judgment that people have when they know you're married, or also like with my sister, who's an amazing actor. I would love to work with my sister
Yeah.
and we want to work together. But again, there's like an extra pressure that's put on because people look at you and go like, oh, I'm going to judge this because I know you have this relationship in real life. So it just takes longer and more sort of time to find the right project.
Yeah,
But
you're
it's
not just
something
gonna
I would
jump
love to do.
into you're not gonna jump
Yeah.
into Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf and then have people go, "Is
That's
this
funny.
what their home life is like?"
Somebody else did say, "Why don't you guys make a?" And I was like, "That's a crazy idea." But
That's like on the deep end of that.
yeah,
Well, see, you
yeah.
can you can take some dance lessons. Maybe you can do like Guys and Dolls. I'm just throwing it
Oh
out.
wow, I like that you went musical with it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I would love to see him doing a lot more musicals anyway. But yes,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I guess
um,
you can dance. Yeah.
just a little bit.
Yeah. True.
Um, I kept waiting for him to pop out there. I'm glad that not
He's
going
not.
to
I'm hiding in the basement of my parents' house while he's upstairs with our kid.
see. There you go. Yeah, I have a funny story about him in that he follows me on Twitter and he's not very active, but
No, but he reads
but
everything.
he reads
Just
everything, and then
yes.
sometimes he'll like something. And so
Hmm.
my friend had posted a picture of him from like 2018, like a photo shoot. And I said, I'm afraid to like this because he follows me and he'll see it. And as soon as I did that, he liked that comment. So I ran into the DMs and I'm like, oh, you busted me. And he's
Oh my gosh,
gotcha.
that's so
He was so
funny.
sweet.
Yeah.
He was so sweet.
Oh well, yeah, he's a sweetie pie, but yeah, he sees everything.
It was really funny. That's good to know.
That's hilarious.
And next you've got Call Jane coming, which is really cool
Yeah.
because it's reuniting you with Sigourney Weaver too.
Well, we're shooting it right now. Sigourney and I were in a movie together when I think I was like 17 or something. We didn't have any scenes together,
Yeah.
so when I met her last week on the set of Call Jane, yeah, she mentioned it. She's like, "Oh, I guess we were already in a movie together." But sadly, in this movie, we only have like very little to do with each other. But she is, I mean, she's an icon and one of my favorites. So it's very exciting to be able to work, with her even as briefly as I did.
Yeah, this sounds like a really great project, and you're picking a lot of social issue projects that I think are going to speak to people. And I wanted to mention too, or at least help you highlight that you're a part of animal protection groups, and really a big supporter of those. And what what got you into that?
Um, well, it's funny being home. Right now I'm in the home that I grew up in. Um,
Wow.
we're staying with my parents while I shoot Call Jane because it's nearby. And I grew up in a very sort of animal friendly world. I mean, we're surrounded by horses and I just grew up with my family always had pets in the house. My mom always had some sort of a therapy dog. Like she would train the dogs to be therapy dogs. So she would go to either nursing homes or hospitals, and the dogs would comfort the patients there. And so I do think it just sort of starts there. It starts with like how you grow up, and if you grow up with an understanding of being empathetic to animals, I think it teaches you a lot. And so that's something that I'm really trying to do with my kids as well, because obviously it starts at such a young age. But I really honestly was, my life really changed when I saw the documentary Blackfish. That's when I became like a real animal activist lover, and I just felt like I couldn't look at certain things the same again. So I credit that movie and Gabriella Cowperthwaite, who's still one of my good friends now, to changing my life, in a really meaningful way.
That's fantastic. Kate, thank you so much for
Thank you. It was
talking
so
with me
nice
today.
talking to you.
It was wonderful. It was lovely. And tell Jamie I said hello.
I will. I'm going to tell him, and he's going to be like, "Oh God, what did I like?"
I know, exactly. All right. Have a wonderful day.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Bye.